97 Out of Box. This is DJ Eric, one part of the Big Throw and Eric show. Right now you're tuned in to Tea with Monroe. Ooh, sex, love, scandal, harassment. Oh, you're getting the tea right now. Tea with Monroe podcast. You're officially tuned in.
It's Sunday. Are you ready? Hey, this is Monroe Bishop.
I'm not ready yet.
Are you ready now? You know what? This is Monroe Bishop. This is Larry White, and welcome back to Tea with Monroe, the podcast. We're gonna get this thing going.
No, I'm waiting to get started.
It is started, and we're recording.
I need to start it over.
Larry, I don't have time for this. Why you? This is Monroe Bishop.
And this is Larry White.
And welcome back to the 51st episode of Tea with Monroe, the podcast. It's been one full, long year of podcasting. And actually, last episode, the 50th episode, was my podversary, which I had Sparkle Bailey here, which was a great episode. So I hope everybody checked that out. So we're here with episode 51, the second one of our second year. Did I say 51st or I say 52nd? The 51st of our second year. I can't even think straight. Anyway, can you believe it's been that long?
Yeah.
How can you believe it?
Yo, we getting old.
I'm not getting old. You getting old. Speaking of getting older, even though I am young, it was my birthday, March 13th. Happy belated birthday to me. And I had another sip and see with my podcast group, Tea with Monroe, the podcast group on Facebook. Check it out. If you're not already a part of that group, hit me up and I will make you a part of it. So, yeah, we had a sip and see at the runway. It was a great turnout, right?
Yeah, it was.
So what'd you think of it?
It's a nice spot. We had a good time. The group, Facebook group came out.
A lot of new people.
Yeah, a lot of new people.
Mm-hmm.
And old friends. So, had a good time.
Definitely. I had a great time. You know, it was a twofold type thing. I didn't initially plan it to be a birthday event, but I kind of like incorporated our birthdays into it, and it became that.
Right.
But it was really a sip and see for the group members to get together and, you know, get to know one another. It's always a great time when you actually see who are behind the comments. And once again, some of our top commenters are the quietest people.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to you, Crumlin. So super engaging, but
well, I mean, he was talking to people
That's the thing. He talks to everybody in the group, but when he came onto the scene with everybody, he kind of like kept it up close and personal with people that he actually knew.
I think everybody does that.
Not everybody, because I think a lot of us, like me and a few other people, Shalonda, Michelle, we kind of like gravitate and talk to everybody. We don't keep it to our comfort zone. We kind of move around and talk to everybody. So
yeah,
I don't know. Tamara was like that too in the beginning. This time, she was a lot more sociable, and
right.
We had a good time. So yeah, check out the runway on 1960. They're not paying me for this advertisement, but definitely if you want a fun place to go, it is a biker bar.
It's not a biker bar.
That's what she said. It's a biker bar. I thought you said it was a biker bar.
No, it's just a bar
where bikers hang out.
Where?
Yeah, but
I didn't see a biker.
Well, not that particular night, but I was told that's where a lot of bikers go to hang out. They're not bad people. They just go there because that's one of those.
I don't think it's a biker bar. I think it's a bar, but it's right there at Cypress Wood in 1960. So, I mean, it's a nice spot. But I don't think it's a biker bar.
Well, that's just my feeling.
They have different themes on different days.
I liked it though. I liked the fact that it was dimensional. It had, it incorporated everybody, right. Blacks, Hispanics, whites. And you know what it really felt like? And I was talking about this to one of my girlfriends the other day. I said it actually felt like a house party, because even though I had my own group of people and there was 2 other parties there, we all came together and partied together. It was like a big house party. Yeah. No drama, no fighting, no kid stuff. It was just a lot of fun. I just had a great time. So check out the runway on 1960 and Is it Cypress?
Cypress Woods.
It's Cypress Wood
Yeah.
in Houston, Texas. I think they're on
I
Facebook.
think
Check them out.
maybe considered humble, but I think it's Houston.
Yeah, that's. I don't even want to get because that's
Yeah.
confusing because I don't know between when the lines are drawn with the Humble, Houston. That's the same thing with my daughter's new house. I thought it was Humble, but it's actually Houston.
It's Houston, but yeah,
Okay, that
it's
side of it is Houston.
It's considered Houston. Kingwood is considered Houston,
Okay.
but it's there's some lines and territories that are designated.
I would never understand the
police
mass
and-
confusion here in Houston,
Yeah.
Texas, with these lines and perimeters and
Mm-hmm.
wards, and it's all new to me.
But they all go to Humble School District. So
yeah.
it's just
I guess just it all depends on who's collecting the tax money.
that's what it's all about. Where the money goes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get it started. So what's the tea this week? So I had a lot of things I want to talk about, but I'm just going to keep it to the top few that we can get through. Black Panther, still making money moves.
Yeah.
Still making money moves. I think it's overseas right now, and they are doing big things. I think they have they beat out
They beat all the other
top ranked movies. Oh my gosh, that slips my mind. I should have wrote it down. But it just recently beat out one of the top movies that was out there for a long time.
and they beat all of the other
Marvels, yeah.
movies that have came out previously. So yeah, it's got support. I don't know how to explain it, but people are watching this movie more that don't even do Marvel. That doesn't even
Yeah.
do comedy. So that's
But here's my thing. You said, okay, so let me just go back real quick. So I was at work the other day, and we were talking about movies.
Right.
And one of my coworkers, who shall remain nameless, actually said she didn't go see Black Panther because she thought it was a black movie. She's Hispanic.
right.
She thought it was a black movie, and she felt that she would be treated some type of way by attending the movie being a non-black. And I have to say, I was a little bit offended. And I looked at her and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you a joke? Because, we joke a lot about some stuff. And, I got to be very careful because, because I don't want to feel some type of way about something that's not that serious. You know what I'm saying? But it is
Right.
serious, and I just really wanted to know her thought process on why she would consider this a black movie. So the first thing out my mouth was, did you consider, what was that Marvel movie, the last one we saw with all the superheroes together, the Avengers.
Right.
I said, did you consider the Avengers a white movie because it had an all-white hero cast? Well, no, but
No, they had Black Panther in it.
well, it did, but it was a majority. A lot of those Marvel movies are. I haven't seen Black Panther in a movie up until that point. It was
Correct.
all basically Caucasian superheroes, and I never once thought to feel uncomfortable because it was an all white superhero movie. So I was so confused when she said that.
Well, the Hulk was technically green, so
should I be offended? I felt myself defending the movie like this is a universal movie that any culture, that any race can walk away
Okay.
feeling
Well,
proud of.
Wait. So you can't really blame her because the movie is marketed in a way
It's
that
not marketed to black people. Don't say that. Do not.
you can't say it's not.
It's not.
It is, but it isn't. So it is thrown out there as a positive message, a positive movie
Of
for black.
community, bringing everybody together.
But hold on. It is marketed as a general Marvel movie, but it has a theme toward the black community. That is
We
why,
did that. Showing up in dashikis,
hold on.
showing up with soul food buffets.
So if we did it, we're part of the marketing. We have yes, you can't. Okay, you can be a market. You can be marketed by the source, or you can be marketed by the audience. That's your main source of marketing anyway. So is your clientele. So if we did that, then that's where it portrayed then maybe she did feel some way until other people may tell her differently. So,
Well, she did mention that she saw because she has a good friend who's Hispanic and she is married to a black man, and she dressed her entire family. I don't know if she's here in Houston or where she is,
Right.
but she dressed her entire family up in dashiki, similar to what a lot of everybody was doing to actually commemorate and just highlight the movie as a positive African movie. Well, not necessarily African movie, but just.
Yeah.
Dang, I just messed myself. But anyway, so they wore dashikis, and her kids are mixed race.
Right.
And so her friend went to the movie theater, and she was attacked for wearing the dashiki. Now, like I said to her, you can go. It depends on where you go, what time you go, where you are, and who you with. Because when we went to see Black Panther, it was more white people in the theater than it was black people.
Because it's a Marvel movie.
Because it's a Marvel movie, and then the area that we was in also. So I can't speak for all black people. I can't say why she was attacked or why she was dealt with some type of way, because she decided she wanted to support the African culture.
She just thought that it was a black movie, and
But I was
in other movies like Get Out and other black movies.
But why is it that our movies that have an all black cast are stigmatized as being black movies?
I don't think. Well, we have even though we have some of the same similar issues. There are certain issues in the black community. That's a general issue, but it does affect the black community. So when we do certain movies and it's dealing with family and dysfunction, and then when we do certain movies that is dealing with injustice or some type of stereotypical type of thing,
Right.
that we end up how you want to say when we do the promoting of the movie or when we do whatever, the movie comes out as a black issue. So I mean, people see it, people hear it, people know it, but they don't always go to the movies to see it. Like when I tell you I don't want to go to a movie unless it's a big blockbuster action or a comedy.
You have a type. You have a type.
I don't want to spend.
But
$10.
look where it is. Action movie or comedy.
Action.
It's not black or white. It's an action or a comedy.
Yeah, but that's not my point that I'm making. I'm going, even if it's a black movie, I will wait till it come out on video before I go see it. If it's not something I want to go
That's
to the
different
movie.
because
No.
not the type of movie you're going to see.
All right,
but
but-
it's not based on this black. It's
Hold
the
on.
type of movie.
Hold on. That doesn't mean she was not going to go see the movie.
Yeah, that's what she said.
That doesn't mean she wasn't going to see it eventually. It was just the fact that she did not want to go and be treated. She probably felt like, because there were certain movies, like I was trying to get to, that people got treated a certain way because, or the audience in the movie theater, because of certain movie issues that when they was at a movie.
Here's the thing. Like when Black Panther first came out, it was a meme that went out or a story that went out, and there was a white couple who they threw blood on her and painted on a black eye and said that she got beat up at a Black Panther movie. It was turned out to be fake news. It was false and everything. And I think it's very unfortunate that these things. Here's the thing for me, because guess who are the, and I hate to bring this down to race, but who are the ones that are shooting up the movie theaters? Who are the ones? I mean, we may get a little rowdy. That's any race. We may get rowdy in a certain part of a neighborhood watching a movie or whatever, or the type of movie that it is. Feel energized, feel empowered, and probably act some type of way that may not always be the most appropriate way. But we ain't shooting up movie theaters. We ain't shooting up schools. So I just think for me personally, just to hear somebody, maybe because I heard it out loud from somebody, to hear them say that they felt that somebody was going to treat them some type of way. It was like, why would you think that? Because I go to the movies and I don't go to the movies thinking I'm going to get shot up because white people are going to be there. I don't think that. Now, am I cautious? Why are you laughing?
Because you haven't stopped talking.
Oh my gosh. Look, okay, can we go to the next topic?
No, we got to complete this topic. So, you got to look at this from both perspectives. You have a person that even if they got fake news, they need to take heed to it. So even if it was fake news, let's just say that was the issue. but maybe she just assumed because it happened in the past with other movies that's what she thought.
What
it was
movies?
a black. I'm not seeing it happen.
What other black movie that was the black people went rowdy and tore down theaters and beat up non-black people?
First of all, it has happened
In all movies.
Okay, hold on. You're right. In all movies.
That's my point.
First of all, it has happened. Secondly, you don't know who you said. Who are the people? That's what you said. You said who are the people that shooting up the movies? Who are the people putting out the fake news? We don't know. It could
we know who's shooting up the movie theaters,
but we don't.
It's not. Even if we have, it's not us.
You don't know that.
Larry.
You don't know. Slow down. Just because you don't know. I have been in the movie theater where there have been shots fired.
I'm talking about people who intentionally come in and target.
I know what you're
people.
saying. You're saying that the one incident where the guy came in and shot up the movie theater, but there's probably movie shootings throughout the country. I don't know. I'm just assuming. But let's just say there probably is. It's like there's white on white crime. They just don't even say it. It's black on black, but black on black crime is a lot of it. But my point is, I get what your point is, but my point that I'm trying to make is, that's one individual. You don't know what her issue was. Why she thought that.
Because I don't know, I shouldn't be offended by it.
You should have dealt with her directly.
I did.
But you should have found out why would she think that.
Well, she told me that because she said her friend who was non-black, who's married to a black man, was. And I said, well, then don't wear a dashiki. I mean,
or did you let her finish talking before you?
Yeah, she did. We had a great conversation about it. I'm just talking about it with you, how I actually felt about it. I didn't attack her because honestly, it's your dollar. You go see what you want to see. Because honestly, I'm gonna spend my money where I want to spend my money. And to me, I just thought that it was odd that somebody would feel that it was a black movie and felt that they would be treated some type of way because it was a black movie. Because I'm gonna tell you something. That movie was so powerful.
It was a good movie.
It was a good movie, and it showed such a positive light of black people, non-violent black people, non-thoughtish women, and it was actually very powerful and beautiful. And if you saw the previews, and if you had an open mind, you would see that. And you can't judge a movie just based on the people that go see it.
But that's the whole thing. Most people go to see a movie based off of what somebody says or how somebody deal with the movies.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just what it is.
It is what it is. I'm not mad at your girl. I still love it. We still cool. She good people and everything. I was just actually a little confused, and I just wanted to work through my emotions in a healthy way.
Everybody have their own stereotypical things.
Stereotypical.
Just like you just said, who are the people? You went there.
I surely did.
So you have some of your own issues. Because when I go in a restaurant, what did I do?
Look for exits.
I said, where are all the exits?
And you want to sit facing the front door.
I want to do all these things so I can see it coming, so I can try to know where to go first.
Right.
So.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So my point that I'm trying to make is that you have to actually. Everybody have their own little issues of why everybody's made up of something.
I get it. I can respect that.
She may have a prejudice. I mean, it's what it is. Prejudice
exists. I know.
She may not be racist, but she may be prejudiced. It's two different things.
I think we took up our whole entire 5 minutes.
Well, let's move to the next thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was listening to Sophisticated Ignorance podcast. Shout out to them and their podcast, great podcast. Check them out on SoundCloud. They were actually doing a podcast on something that was actually on my list, so I'm not biting entirely, but I definitely want to broach their topic. And we're actually on a side note, before I even mention this to you, we was watching Uncensored and watching Charlamagne the God's interview on Uncensored. We was really impressed, and I actually really like Charlamagne the God. I mean, I think he gets a bad rap for a lot of stuff, and I like his candor. I like his humility. I just love everything about him. His radio personality is I just like it. Fight me if you want to. I just like it. So we was watching Uncensored, and he was basically explaining to people how he became who he is, who were the influencers in his life to shape, form, build, grow, develop Charlamagne the God. And And we started talking about it, and I started reflecting on the podcast, Sophisticated Ignorance, because they was talking about that as well, about being a product of our environment, how we are and who we are because of the people we grew up with and things like that. So I kind of want us to touch on that. I mean, say and share as much as you want. I know a lot of the questions are going to be centered around our upbringing with our parents, and that could be very delicate because you know how Black mamas are. They see what they see, feel how they feel, and they know what they know. One thing that we know for sure, they think they're the best mamas in the world, because I know I do. So if you want to tread lightly for the sake of relationships, that's fine. But you know, I have a problem, not necessarily a problem, but it's just really confusing how your experience with somebody else, to you it could feel traumatic, but they feel some type of way about it because they was involved in it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the person that was behind your emotions, but because they're not wanting to accept it, I don't know. That's another tangent. So basically, we are products of our environment. So just based on your upbringing, just relationship with your family in general, just in general growing up. How was it growing up in the household?
Okay, so I grew up in Barrett Station, which is in Crosby, Texas. Well, first of all, my mother was married to my father. They moved when they, when they got married. I guess she was maybe being pregnant, or she moved to Atlanta with my father. He was a pharmacist. Went out there, me and my sister Lavonda. We ended up, after 3-4 years of being married, I guess my parents, they ended up moving back to Crosby. My mother did. My father went somewhere else, and so me and my sister was together there in Baytown for a little while, and then we moved back into Crosby, and then so my mother had her 2 kids. It was just me and her, so it was wonderful. We was little kids, and we knew nothing. I was maybe like 5 years of age. So my mother ended up meeting my stepfather, Robert. So Robert was nice at first. As we grew up, he was more abusive. He was a mean, like, abusiveness once my little brother Ian was born. So he was a very mean person, and he was from the islands, and nobody really liked him in the community. They didn't really care for him, but he was a very mean person, and he was in my life until I was the age of, I believe, maybe 15 to 16, going into high school. I was in high school, but basically, so I had a little turmoil there in my life, but it kind of shaped me. My mother was a good mother. I had my family, my grandmother, my siblings, it's 5 of us in total.
Right.
But let me get right to the point. So my mother, I think she did a great job raising us. She didn't know everything. She didn't do everything right, but she learned on the way, and we all came out pretty good.
So as a child, just as an adult looking back as a child, when she made that transition from her relationship with your biological father to your stepdad, and it changed the dynamics of your household growing up for you and your sister, even before your brother was born. How did that change the way your relationship? How old were you again?
When my brother was born, I was 7.
So but when they got together, he came right after.
Yeah, I was.
So
there
was no space for you and Robert to grow in a relationship before Ian came.
No, not really.
Okay,
he was there.
Okay, so while your mom was pregnant and y'all were married, so because I know you told me your mother was very nurturing, very catering, sing-songy, just really happy.
Right.
So, but that changed because she was a different type of man now. So, how did that change you in that moment? Do you think, because it seems kind of traumatic a little bit, because that's a big shift.
It was traumatic. I was scared of Robert when I was growing up until I became a teenager. Then I became more
nuck if you buck.
Right. But Robert was a grown man. He probably could have just
beat your behind.
Did a whole bunch. Yeah.
Right.
So, but it did change. The one thing I can say I didn't get a father figure from Robert. I
Right.
didn't get that from Robert. I got my father figure from going to church, Christ.
Okay.
So
Just men in the church and the teachings.
yeah,
Okay.
that's where I got mine from. Now, when I was growing up, I can't say my mother was very consistent all the time with going to church,
Right.
but I went to church enough to understand and to know
Right.
what was going on. So I got my father figure stuff of what it should be and how it should be from there. Now, that was my father, because my actual father was out of my life for 12 years. He literally did not speak. Well, he literally just stopped coming to visit because he used to come in from Chicago, and every year I had a week of the summer with him, and we just had a great time, but he stopped doing it.
Right.
So, but all of this shaped me and it taught me, and I was a good kid. I never really wasn't bad. We got bullied. Me
Your
and
mama said you was bad.
when I say good, I did not get into. When I got as a teenager, I didn't get into like. I guess I was a bad kid as a kid.
Just a normal bad kid, just getting into stuff.
I was a boy. I
Right.
was out in the woods, running around
Right.
barefooted, building toys, playing with stuff, playing with animals and critters in the ground.
Ew.
Crawfish. I didn't even know what crawfish were, but we used to catch them and fight them. You know, we used to do stuff. You know, it was we just
Don't play with your food.
right. so you know, we ran through the woods. I lived in the woods, lived by a river. You know, we used to get in trouble if we went by the river. You know what I mean? Because kids drowned back there. You know, so yeah, I was a boy. It's growing up, and I was tough. I mean, I fought, I ran. I had to learn how to survive. It could have been it was a country ghetto, if you know what I'm saying.
I know.
grew up in
I'm from Perry, Florida. That's a country ghetto.
So-
Shout out to Perry, Florida.
Right. So we were, you know, now those guys are, you know, I love them. They old, you know, neighborhood friends and stuff
Right.
like that. But we fought. We grew up in good. But how it developed me, how it shaped me, how everything. Let's get to what the issue is that, me growing up in the church was my main foundation. My mother actually, after Robert, she ended up started dating a guy named Kenny. He's a Nigerian. He did a lot of shaping in my life too. He kind of showed me that there is he showed me that you are just as good as anyone else.
Right.
So where you have
That's the African mentality. He was African, right? Yeah.
He did not. He would go into a white restaurant and make them serve him correctly, make them deal with him correctly. Anyway, he spent his money. He wore the top of the line clothes, drove the nicest cars. Now that's not me in personality, but he showed me that you are as good.
Great things, how to be a great man.
Right, that there's no other person that can there's no other person that's better than you out there. That like you are just as good as any white person, any black person, and you need to be, you know, you need to make people respect you. That was his position on things.
And let me get to mine real quick because we got.
We're gonna get them finished because I got to bring it all together.
I got some more questions.
I'm gonna bring it all together. But then there's so those men right there. Robert had an influence because he came back into my life, and Robert showed me that you can change your life. When he came back into his kids' life, because Robert was gone for like a good 5 years or so, he really wasn't really in contact with them as much. But they was growing up, they were teenagers.
Right.
I was pretty much a young man. But when Robert came back into my life, Robert was a totally different person. So Robert showed me that you can change. And he was humble. Mm-hmm. And he had a humbling spirit.
Right.
And he was a person that I felt abuse and didn't really want to be around to now want to be around him. So he showed me that you can change and be a different person.
Be a different man, be a good man.
Right. And he actually loved me and my kids. Mm-hmm. So that's what I got from Robert. Mm-hmm. And that's why he blessed my life. And so these men, all these, even my father, and I'm just letting you know, I'm saying it because you asked me about my parents, and I will talk about my mother if you give me a chance, but we'll talk about it.
And we're gonna get back to that.
But my father I got to see my father when I was around 22 years of age. He was gone for 12 years. And somehow, some kind of way, somebody, look at how he got my number, but my father called me. And it was like, I knew his voice right away. Boom, Daddy. Mm-hmm. And then he was like,
that's
hey,
before
son.
He died, right?
Yeah, this is before he died. No, so he's like, Dad. I said, hey, how you doing? He said, we talked a little bit. I said, Daddy, I'm coming to see you. I got the first flight on the plane, and I flew out to Chicago. And his life was different. My dad was always a money maker. He was always in business.
He was a pharmacist.
He was a pharmacist. His life had went sideways because he lost his license to be a pharmacist.
Right.
And he got fined and penalty. He couldn't own. He had to lose. He lost. He went through a legal separation. His wife got everything.
Right.
I love her, Judy. She's a nice lady. His wife got everything, and he was his own decisions. He was where he was, and so we talked. And I was, I stayed in his room, and he was like, told me he loved me, always loved me. He just made bad decisions, and he wanted to come back, but he didn't want to come back the way he was. He wasn't doing well.
Right.
So he wanted to fix his life before he came back to Texas. Now, I wish he would have just came back to Texas. He probably would have been alive to this day.
Do you have any regrets about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, the one good thing about my father is that I feel better that I got to spend a little bit of time with him.
To get to know who he was.
Right. Even in that week that I spent with him, it helped me because my sister has more anger toward him.
Right.
Because he didn't come around. I have a forgiving heart, and she does too, but I just decided to go to him and actually spend time
and not
with
have
him.
the expectation that he should come to you.
Well, I yearned for my father.
Right.
So I wanted to see who I was in that aspect. So
out of all that, so do you feel like you have daddy issues? Can men have daddy issues?
Yeah, yes, men can have daddy issues, but I wanted to make sure that my father, that's important for all people. All kids yearn for their parents. I don't care
who raises them.
Right. They may have angry issues toward them. They may dislike them. They want
to be a part.
Their parent. They want to know who they are, what makes them, who made them. And they
it's like a part of you that's missing when you don't know who your parents are.
Right. Well, go ahead. That's my father aspect of it. I can't. This will take longer, but I will have to tie it off. But I'll let you talk.
Yes, I mean that was very long. Very good though. Very good though. So for me personally, I grew up in Perry, Florida. Well, part of my life I was in Perry, Florida, and I don't remember my early days because I was actually raised by my grandmother and my great-grandmother. Well, my mother attended college and got her degree in teaching at Florida State University. And for me, I have like snippets of my childhood and of, living on a dirt road, like you say, the country ghetto. But it was so, I feel such warm feelings when I think about those times. I was really young, so I don't have a whole lot of memories. But I do have memories of I don't even have memories of when my parents, my biological parents, my mom and my Vernon, I don't call him Dad, and we'll get to that later. But my mom and my Vernon, when they were married, I never experienced them together as a couple. And I think for me now as an adult, I think because I did not get to experience that, kind of like I've made a lot of bad choices in life when it comes to men because of that. So I've had some serious daddy issues, and I have some now. I'm just aware of them, and I make better decisions regardless of how I feel about some things growing up. Right. And so my mother remarried. She had my brother and she had my sister, who I could not stand. She was just the prettiest, fattest black baby there was. And I just felt like all the love and attention was to her because her dad was in the picture at that time. So I felt a lot of resentment for my sister growing up, a big part of my life. And then we had my brother. When my mother had my brother, we actually moved back. We was living in Washington, D.C. at that time because my mother was married to a military guy. My dad was military, and my her husband, I can call him my stepdad, her husband was military. So we lived in Washington, D.C. for a good part of my life. And, I have to say it was I have memories of those times. I lived in Forestville, Maryland, but I actually attended school in Washington, D.C. because my mother worked for, I'm not going to say where she worked, but she worked in Washington, D.C., and her husband was in the Air Force. That's where my first bullying experience started when I was there.
Right.
When we moved to Florida, my mother had broke up with her husband. They was divorced, and she changed. The relationship, I don't really want to go into a whole lot of detail, was very tumultuous. It was a lot. It was a lot, and she ended up going they ended up going their separate ways, but it changed her. It changed her spirit, kind of like when your mother got with Robert. It's like it's a shift in their
Whoever bring people into your life, it kind of
it was
be a good or a bad.
It was a shift, so I didn't get the hugs and the kisses.
Right.
It's like she was angry. She was hardworking mom, worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Right. She taught me how to cook, how to train me to help take care of my siblings.
Right.
So I became kind of like the second adult in the house, even though I was in elementary school, middle school.
That's how it usually is.
Yeah, the oldest child take over the responsibility.
Yeah, same experience.
Right, and so I became that for my younger siblings, and I felt like a lot of my childhood, I didn't have any because of that. It was very difficult for me, even now just thinking about it, because I was doing a lot, but it was for the family's sake. And again, my mother wasn't the most affectionate person, and the way that I was dealt with, I kind of transferred that to my children. It's difficult for me to hug, kiss, love, and show affection. I show it through acts of service versus affection, hug, kissing.
And saying what she was doing, probably.
I mean, she was, because acts of service. So it was like all that transferred to me, even though I kept saying to myself, I never wanted to be like this. Because I needed her, I loved her, and I wanted her to hug and kiss me because she showed more affection towards my younger brother than
that was her affection.
It started. I used to get a lot of affection, and then when my sister came, it transferred to her. And then when my brother came, it transferred to him. And that's where it stayed.
Her baby,
and that's where it stayed. So it never, the older I got, the less affection I got. That's how I felt.
Right.
That's how I felt. So, and it was hard for me because when I was in middle school, I was...
But usually daddies come in and actually take that place of that with their girls.
Vernon,
they kind of do that.
I would go in the summer times. I would go visit with Vernon. He wasn't married to my bonus mom now, but he was single, and I would go visit down with my grandmother, and he would come see me. But it wasn't that father-daughter type thing. And I think I've only called him dad once in my life, is when we was riding bicycles down one of the dirt roads, and the dog came chasing. I was like, Daddy, help me. Right. But for whatever reason, I've never connected him with being my dad. I knew he was my dad, but I never felt like he was my dad. I felt like he was a person in my life who had to be there because that was his responsibility.
Yeah.
Not because he loved me. Anyway, I don't even know how we got on this. It's so deep. Anyway, so the person I am today is, and I carried all this with me into my relationships now, which I want to go to next. In my parenting, in my relationships with guys I've been with, because I was always searching for love.
Right.
I never knew what it was. So whatever made me feel good is what I thought was love. It took me a very long time as an adult to know that sex wasn't love. Buying me stuff wasn't love. Beating me wasn't love. Being married to somebody just because you want to be married isn't love. So a lot of that stuff affected me well into my adulthood, and even sometimes now. I mean, hell, I'm in therapy, for goodness sake, because I have to be able to balance stuff out and, see bigger pictures of stuff.
Right.
Because sometimes it's not always clear what I should do in certain situations. So, anyway, that's that. But my grandmother was a very big part of my life. She's the one who introduced me to church, to God.
Right.
I was a Baptist growing up, and it was because of her that God was born into my life. My mother believes in God, but she was working all the time. She never implemented church. That was not something that was a part of our life. So my summers were based on, not based on, but my grandmother was full of God, full of love. Where I spent my summers. Yeah, that's where I got.
Right.
That's where I got that family feeling, that sense of community, because I was around my Vernon's family and different things like that. So yeah. So that was emotional. I wasn't expecting that.
Sometimes when you talk things out, it.
Yeah. I guess. No. So how did your upbringing affect your dating life? How did you date as a teenager, as a young man?
What I noticed.
What type of woman did you pursue? Stuff like that.
So I guess like any boy, you want the pretty girl. So that was part of my, attraction. But I guess when I got older, I noticed that a lot of my friends, when I talked to them, like I went and saw, a couple of my friends, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we used to do this and we used to do that, but Larry, you were never there. You was always working, or you was always doing something else." And I thought about it, and I said, "What was I doing?" And what I can remember mostly is I spent time with the girlfriends that I was with.
So you spent time with your girlfriends and kicked your
guys.
The guys
I
to the
didn't hang
curb.
with the guys. I was always with the girl. Now I guess that's not a bad thing.
Where did you get that from? Because you do that now.
Well, I don't know what. I don't know why I do that. I mean, it may
You never
be,
thought about that?
That's what I'm thinking about. So I realized that I was. Excuse me. I realized that I actually. I like hanging with my friends, but maybe I had that in me as a young age and wanted to be with one person. Like, I'm not saying I was only with dating one person all my life. I'm just saying if that broke up, I ended up getting with somebody else eventually. I wasn't the one that jumped from relationship to relationship. I never did that.
So you can count the relationships on your hand.
As far as what I considered I really dated, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Now there was girls in between there, but I don't.
And hit them and quit them type girls, but you wasn't knowing no relationship with them.
Well, I ain't gonna say all that. I ain't gonna tell you I was hitting and quitting. I'm just saying
they want your girlfriend though.
Well, they probably didn't really date me, but there was girls that was in my life. You know what I mean? So
okay, clean that
so
out.
I'm just saying that I don't know. I just, as far as my dating, the way I chose, when I wanted to get married, I wanted a certain type of person. I wanted a person's heart. I didn't want a person's looks.
Right.
I dated a bunch of pretty girls, and they had the same thing. They had the same.
What was that? What was the common denominator?
They thought that they had this thing where you supposed to, they're shallow. I can't even explain it.
Because they're pretty, you're supposed to cater to them. You're supposed to run behind them. You're supposed to treat them and give them your candy and give them your carry their books and do everything because they were so pretty.
Right, and
they were stuck up basically.
Yeah, and I was probably a little stuck up myself, but I just noticed that I wanted a certain type of woman. I wanted a woman that's God-fearing. And when I got a certain age,
At what age was that?
I was in my maybe 20s, about 20 years of age. I started wanting that. But when I was younger, I just liked the person that liked me. If you really liked me, I liked you. But it wasn't. I don't even know if I don't even think I chose the girls. The girls chose me, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? I actually was just a good. I mean, I guess they I want to talk to him. So they was cute, and I liked them. I gave him a chance. And I talked to him, But if they got on my nerve, we broke up.
I think it's easier for guys sometimes. I think it's harder for you to really pinpoint why you choose
Yeah, I don't know.
women and why you do the things you do. Because for me personally, I never saw an example of
I never really chose.
But see, your mother, my mother was single for a very long time. I never really saw her in a relationship. She was just a hard-working mom. I'm pretty sure she did have relationships,
Right.
but it was not something that she exposed us to. So I never really saw her outside of her ex-husband, my sibling's dad, in a relationship. She was just always in mom mode. She was always in work mode. She was a hard working mom. And I really picked that up from her. So for me personally, I didn't see an example of a relationship. I didn't see I never felt or saw love between a husband and a wife. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't have anything to gauge. So as a young girl, I mean, because my mother really didn't talk to me about a whole lot. We didn't have that kind of relationship where we would have these mom-daughter in-depth, thoughtful talks about life and the birds and the bees. I kind of learned that stuff from the outside world. So it was really confusing, like I said earlier, for me when I was seeking and wanting relationships with some. I was mad confused. I was confused as hell because I never knew what to expect. Vernon never taught me how a man should treat a young woman.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I never got that from either one of them. Even when he ended up getting married and having his own family, all that nurturing and care and teaching and leadership went to that family. I was not brought into that. It wasn't. She didn't share that stuff with me.
Okay. Well, some of your teaching is when you, as a kid, as you watch your parents. So, if you wanted to learn, what you wanted from your dad was his attention. You didn't necessarily want to know how you should treat a woman. So if you watched your dad, then you would have saw how you treat a woman, because he was showing you how he
I
treats
plead
a
the
woman.
fifth.
But
see, once again, that's why I
there you
say
go.
I never had a good example, because he did not give me an example of that. I saw a married couple. I didn't even see him and my bonus mom show affection towards one another.
Okay.
Now I saw him kissing and loving on my little sister, but he never did. You know what, my sister. You know what? When I would go visit my dad, he always had his man cave. He always needed his man cave. He needed his space to think, and he always had it decorated with his Malcolm X stuff. He was a very black
pro-militant.
Yeah.
Black pro-militant.
Yes,
Yeah.
the white man just we don't have nothing. His life is the way it is because of the white man. That type of thought process, theology.
Yeah.
And so when I would be with him, he would have me listening to these tapes and to these records of this power to the people, these speeches on Malcolm X, and trying to explain to me why people in his life and in part of his life, why he didn't get things in life was because of the way the world is, and then the white people this and the white people that. I mean, he had a very
Some of that may be true, but we're not going there with
but
this
what I'm saying is that was my relationship with him. That's the type of stuff he put in my brain. He didn't put in my brain about you a beautiful young girl, you need to carry yourself like a young lady. You know, when a guy dates you, he needs to treat you like this. He never instilled that in me. I think he instilled it in my sisters, but he never instilled that in me. He made me.
Well, you was outside. You was the first.
I was his firstborn. You would think he would want me to know how to choose and pick a good man instead of picking men that was kicking my behind and cheating on me and dogging me out, you know what I'm saying? So,
you.
So again, I go back to my dating habits early in my age, because it took me a very long time, because I was in this vicious cycle of stupidity. And the thing about it is, because I wanted to be so close to him, I would share my boyfriend situations with him, and he was like, "Baby girl, you just love being stuck on stupid, don't you?" But I was stuck on stupid because of his ass. No disrespect. I mean, I love him dearly, and I'm not even angry about any of that stuff now, but just looking back, that's the type of feedback I would get when I was in a very bad relationship that I did not know how to work out. I never got the guidance. Kind of like you try to give your daughters guidance on how somebody should treat you if you feel in some type of way. You know what I'm saying?
I can be better about that myself. I probably could be. I think my daughter and my son has a little wisdom. They watched us. They watched me. They know what mistakes I've made. They know what mistakes their parents, their mother made.
But that has affected him in some way.
And it has affected them. But I would hope that and I know my daughter could have daddy issues, but I would hope that she would, when I did certain things when I grew up, I did learn from my parents. And I took the exact opposite direction with the bad behaviors.
Did you know how to be a husband to your wife? Because I never knew how to be a wife to my husband. I
learned that from church. I learned that from going to church.
I mean, I went to church, but I didn't learn that. I didn't.
Well,
because it was a consistent church, maybe.
Well, it's not that. I mean, once I got it okay, let me correct that. I learned how to treat people kindly.
That's different.
No,
it is different.
No.
It is different.
Listen. I learned how to treat people kindly. And as treating people kindly, it's the same as treating your spouse. Now, I'm not saying I was always kind to my spouse. It's just like my sibling. You hurt the people you're mostly close to.
Right.
So me and my sister fought. Me and my brothers fought. They were younger than me. I knocked them across the head, punched them, hit them, kicked them. Those were my little brothers. But I never tried to bring harm to them. They knew that I was there for them and I loved them and I cared for them. Same thing with my kids. I may not have been always the nicest to them. The same thing with my spouses. I've only been married twice.
Right.
But the point that I'm trying to make is, as a teenager, as a youngster, I knew to respect adults. I learned that. That was the one great thing I learned, is that adults are authority.
Right.
But there's a line that once an adult is trying to harm me, I knew danger, stranger, danger, this person no longer is in my best interest. This person trying to harm me.
Right.
Whether it be through fussing, through trying to
I didn't know stranger danger. I was so naive.
Well, it's not stranger danger. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying you had adults in your life when I grew up.
Right.
That could all of a sudden, from being, this is an adult, this person you supposed to respect and listen to this person means you no good and harm.
Right.
Get away. So I understood that. So I learned that. I don't know where I learned it, but I know I learned that as a kid. I know it was something through my experience and learning that I need to be careful. So I'm only bringing you up to where what the question was
how did it influence your dating and how you choose?
Right. Not just choosing, but how to treat person. So as I got older in high school and was going to church, even when I wasn't even listening, wasn't paying attention, when just sitting around the church board like, I want to go home. We've been here. When they talked about Christ and marriage and compared it to Christ being married to the church and the people and how you're supposed to treat your spouse,
right?
How you're supposed to deal with your spouse. Subconsciously, I learned how I was supposed to. Now, I didn't say I actually did all of that, but I had a good understanding that is your family.
Right.
That's your mom and dad and all them. That's your family, but that family you creating has to try to gel with your external family, and on both sides. I realized that they have to try to gel, and I also knew this is about relationships. That if it ain't gelling from the beginning, as long as I'm married and as long as I'm with that person, eventually it will gel. Because at some point, they're going to have to accept me. Or at some point, my family is going to have to accept my spouse. So I never I never rocked the boat to a point on those sides. Because
you don't rock the boat, but you don't pull the paddle either. I mean, you don't roll the paddle. You know what I'm saying? You don't roll your boat like to get things in a...
Put it like this. At some point, when you're married, those external people are going to have to accept that this person is part of your daughter,
either accept it or they don't,
or your son's life,
right?
And they're going to help them. If they help your daughter, they're going to help your son. If they're going to help their daughter, they're going to help their steps of what do you call it? Marital son. I forgot. My brain is dead. I don't even know my vocabulary. Same thing on my side. So I knew that's what it was. So I treat people kindly. That makes everybody get along in any kind of relationship. And that's kind of when you say you never learn how to treat.
I never learned how to be a wife. I think the closest thing that I thought, by the time my mother did get into a long-term relationship, it was later in my years. I was in high school or graduated. And by that time I stopped paying attention. So, I mean, even though, she was with a great person and she was so happy and so different, I was disconnected from it. I was trying to live my own life based on what I taught myself and what I learned from others or whatever.
Right.
And I think the closest thing to a relationship that I saw in those years was my grandparents,
Right.
but it was such an old-fashioned type relationship. I couldn't really relate to that either, but it did give me some semblance of what I wanted, because I knew I wanted somebody to love me the way my granddad loved her and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Well, what I will say about I guess me, and I would suggest this to other people, is when you don't get it from one place, you naturally are gonna look somewhere else and get it. But you got to actually look in the right place. You got to
that's the thing. I don't think I did.
Like you did, but you didn't want to relate to it. And what I'm saying, you said your grandparents. Well, you saw good things there,
right?
But it was old.
Yeah, because I was like, who finna be fixing somebody plate?
Okay.
And
so
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
So that's
because I couldn't relate to that.
But
and look what I do. I fix plates now.
I myself
right
tend to cater toward older people. When I would have a conversation, I love talking to older people. I love history. So
well, you got an old soul. That's a different aspect of your personality. I mean, that's different. I mean, and even though
but you can't rule. It's just like our kids. They think, well, we just don't know nothing. They so old. But you know what? Let something happen. Guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna come to you. You old, but they know you care about them. So you learn from the people that care about you. You should.
Do you see some of the people, some of the women that you've dated in your life? Did it remind you of your mom? Did you find yourself dating people who had your mom, some sort of her personality or something about her in them?
My mother was aggressive. When I say aggressive, my mother, when I say she's a salesperson. She's strong in there, and my mother is strong-willed. So I never wanted to marry nobody like my mom. I didn't look for that. That wasn't what I was looking for. Strong, aggressive women. That wasn't where I was headed with it. I was looking for more of a woman that I saw, a virtual woman in the Bible, like the virtual, the scripture part about what a virtual woman is. I actually looked for that. That's what I wanted, and I probably got a chameleon-ness type of thing in the beginning, but I mean, everybody has that in them.
Do I remind you of your mama?
You do remind me somewhat of my mama. Somewhat. I'm not gonna say all the way, but my mother's aggressive. She's strong-willed. She speaks her piece, and I just thinking back on how parenting was back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The way the way my mama did us is she taught us to be self-sufficient young, so that we knew how to do things. And me and my sister was able to do things that a teenager should have been able to do.
And we don't teach. Honestly, we don't teach that in our kids. We do not.
Well, I do know that a lot of that has got very progressive and like taking, telling people that your kids are not old enough to do this, they too young to do that. It used to didn't be that. Now, for example, when I was a kid, I could stay home and I knew what to do, and I didn't have any fear staying home. But my little sister, she would not go in the house. The neighbors was upset because she'd be out crying on the street because she didn't want to go in the house.
Embarrassing her mama.
Yeah.
Like her mama done left her outside.
Well, I would have to get home to actually, she was 10, 11. She was older.
Well, some kids are just naturally scared no matter what you teach them.
Well, my point that I'm making is that she was not mature enough to actually be home by herself. So it's the maturity of the child. But my mother had us doing things And my little sister was the only one that couldn't do it.
Right.
Because she just wasn't built like that. So she needed to become a teenager before she can actually be there. And even then, it was a struggle. She just had a natural fear of being home by herself. And so I'm just saying that I just looking at the way that they taught us back in the days how we did things.
I know for me, I can't say. Well, of course, I'm a female, so I don't even know if can you even choose men that remind you of your mom. But I know typically we choose men that remind us of our dad. And I was thinking about this the other day because when I was writing out this episode, I was like, did I choose men that remind me of my Vernon? And I did. Emotionally unavailable men has always been my attraction. Honestly, it's a childhood trauma. I think I was really traumatized because of neglect from him, which broke my heart. I felt unworthy and unwanted, so I chose people in my life to reaffirm that I was unworthy and unwanted. I never chose people who valued me until now, of course, honey. But I'm just saying, during my tenure of learning this part about myself, I never chose people who valued me, who reaffirmed me into greatness. They always tore me down emotionally and physically. And now, don't get me wrong, Vernon never beat me. He never cussed me. He never did any of those things to me. But because he was emotionally unavailable, it had me choosing men who were that way also, and these other things.
He really needed to beat you. And
what you mean? You think that would have helped? You trying to be funny?
I'm serious. Maybe that's what you needed from him. Maybe you wanted his attention.
Maybe to get some sort of attention. I mean, I self-sabotaged so many relationships because I didn't know any better. I just didn't know any better. I just, like I said before.
It sounds like he didn't know any better either. So it's not,
I look for providers and protectors, and not because of what I learned, but because I thought that's what I needed. So when I found somebody who was protecting me and fighting for my honor and pulling out his sword in my honor and wanting to fight and take care of me, hell, when the doors closed, that shit turned on me. You know what I'm saying? That same, what I thought was chivalry was his own personal demons he was dealing with. And his way of, and I felt like, and I feel so stupid now even just looking back, because on our first date, we was, riding and, somebody cut us off and cussed us out and throwing bird signs or whatever. And he sped in front of them and cut them off and popped the trunk like he had a gun or whatever. And he was like, you ain't finna be disrespecting me and my woman and da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's so strong. He's so valiant. Oh my gosh, I need this in my life.
Goodness.
Man. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I thought this is what a relationship was supposed to be like because I never saw one. So it's so important for us to really, even if we're as single mothers raising our children, we really have to teach our children about healthy relationships, what a healthy relationship is. Even though I may be single and I'm not with somebody, this is how a person should treat you. Through my example of treating my kids some type of way and how they see you treat other people, like you say, with kindness. And I just...
Well, I mean, you should expect some of that from a husband. You should expect chivalry.
I'm such an attention needy person because of this. I mean, I got no attention.
You
I need therapy.
You should expect to be protected. You should.
Yeah.
You should.
But it should be a healthy protection.
Well,
it should be.
You don't want somebody. I mean, women. I think all women have some type of sense of awkward. I'm not gonna say awkwardness. Something about women feeling that sense of somebody growling, like roaring, like a lion.
Right.
It makes them feel like they are safe. And that's something that women, that's a thing that women have. But I think that's a natural feeling of being protected. But you also need somebody that has some wisdom to know not to put themselves and you in danger. Because protecting you from what? Your feelings being hurt is one thing.
Right.
But protecting you where somebody's life can be taken.
That's different.
Yeah, you want somebody that actually can think, okay, we need to be quiet and get out of this situation.
Right.
A lot of people want to show their chest and beat their chest like King Kong, and that's all they do is going to do is get a person hurt or killed.
Right.
So,
but again, you got to think about it. I was
you have to
hanging
think
with
about
people, women who this was their life. You know,
Right.
it was like back in the day when I was, you know, in my early 20s, it was that life where that thug life was really a thug life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You kind of gravitated towards men, not the sagging men, but men who had this powerful presence and who was doing things. You know, whether
Yeah.
they was, you know, a pharmaceutical person, or whether they was, you know, doing
Yeah.
some manual labor.
Everybody went after the guy that had money in their pocket at
Yes,
a young
yes,
age.
yes, and
No, they didn't care how they got it.
Right, and I fell into that trap thinking this is when a guy is so direct and so hard and this is love. He must love me. You know what I'm saying? I'm blinded to the other 5 women walking around with the same shit I got and doing this, being able to get the same purse that I have.
Right.
He loves me, but again, it comes from partly my ignorance, but the foundation of it comes from my childhood, and I didn't never stop to think. And it wasn't. Let me tell you something. It wasn't until I got it was in the middle when I decided I was going to divorce my last husband.
Mm-hmm.
It was some point in there when I actually stopped my life in my head and start thinking about what the F is going on with you. I wanted to break this cycle of constantly reliving this same traumatic stuff, because it was different stories, but the ending was always the same. I was beat down emotionally, physically, I was broken. And I never had any. And this is the example that I was showing to my kids. Now, we're going to have to probably do a part 2 because I got more stuff to go in terms of how all this translates to our relationship now and how it affect the kids and different things like that.
Where are we on time?
We're in an hour now. So we're going to do a part 2. You okay
Okay.
with that, or you want to record?
Well, I want to say this.
I got to do the anonymous tea something real quick.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to do a part 2, people, to finish up about who we are and why the way we are, and hopefully it just gives you an idea, help you think about where you are in your life, and maybe you could do some things differently.
Yeah.
Hopefully we are able to help somebody. Just based on this conversation, what do you think can help somebody else get somewhere or get out of something that's not healthy?
Everybody knows right from wrong, and you know when something's wrong.
But can you trust your feelings? Can you trust your feelings when you?
No, you can't.
When
you cannot trust your feelings, because even the Bible tell you your feelings will deceive you. Okay,
Right.
so you have to trust something sound. Only thing I can think of is the Bible.
Trust God.
Yeah. So, and you gotta actually try to know what it says about that issue, and try to understand it about that issue that you're dealing with. Now, that's my word to somebody. But even then, let's say you don't have the Bible, you know right from wrong. It's not about feelings. It's about understanding. You know, when I pray, or when I used to pray. I used to pray for. Well, not used to pray. I still pray. Don't get me wrong. But when you pray, you should always pray for wisdom.
Right.
All right, and you should pray for other things, favor and different things like that. But you know when somebody's going to end up eventually killing you. If they almost killed you,
right.
they're going to kill you eventually. If they are verbally abusive to you, it's only going to get worse. They're worse. They're not going to stop doing what they're doing just because they're going to come to an epiphany. Either something's going to happen in their life or something's going to happen in your life.
Right.
So you have to get some wisdom, and you have to actually try to get out of whatever situation. That is my situation. What I would tell people now, I don't believe in, if you're married, I'm not telling nobody to go to get divorced.
Okay, we're gonna do a part two.
I have to complete this part because I can't just do something like that. I can't tell somebody something and then they take that advice and run with it. If you're married, you need to try to seek a different kind of guidance. You need to actually do something different. I said that in one of our podcasts. I don't tell people that's married to do the same thing as a person that's just living or being with somebody.
Yeah.
So you need to actually try to go a different route. And if if your life is in danger, or you feel you need to get away from it. I do believe that. All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a part two. We're not finished. It's going to be a part two to this podcast. We have a lot more to dive into about being a product of our environment and who we are and what has molded us into the people we are today. That was very emotional for me. I don't even know if I should apologize or not. I don't even know. But, this was very authentic. So just know we're going to do a part two. I don't know the name of it yet, but you'll know soon when this airs tomorrow.
Part two.
Yes, part two. So, Anonymous T, real quick, I got this. I think somebody posted in my group or somebody saw it in somebody else's group and sent it to me. I don't know if it's their authentic story, but it was sent to me. So, have you ever loved a man to your core, however, it wasn't returned to you, and at some point years have passed and you're still in the same situation, feeling like he's the one, however, he's not? And you're not moving forward, but he has, and the both of you still deal with each other, but you feel empty inside. Are you stupid for feeling this way? Meaning the love you have for this man, and mind you, it didn't start off nothing but love, dates, being supportive of your dreams and your goals, acting like he's investing, being introduced to key people in his life, conversations on top of conversations about the future, and then one day it's all gone, but you're still here and he's not, because all of a sudden he's emotionally unavailable. Oh my God. Is that who he was from the beginning? But it took you years to see that. How do you move on from this when you're still in love and when you're still in love with this person? I need your help.
I'm gonna try to understand what you
basically
just said.
She's saying that she was in a relationship with somebody who showed her everything that she wanted in somebody. She thought they were in love and compatible, but then all of a sudden one day he just stopped doing all these things that she loved about him. He's moved on with her life, but she's still in love with him, and she's still keeping a relationship on some, I don't know, she didn't say sex, but on some level they're still in communication with each other, and she's still yearning for him.
They're not together.
But they're not together. Okay. He's moved on. In my mind, I feel like he's moved on with somebody else, but she didn't say. So he's moved on, but he still keeps her involved in his life, but he's not emotional available to her. So she wants to know, how does she move on from this unhealthy situation? Okay.
Two things. Okay, I'm assuming that she's not married, so I'm gonna.
Doesn't sound like it at all.
So I'm assuming that wasn't a marital situation. I would say this: if you don't have kids, I'm assuming she didn't have kids with him,
right?
So there's no reason for you to be in contact with him. You can be friends, but if this friendship affects you, your health, you're able to move on with your life and then you need to not be friends with him. If that friendship is damaging to you and y'all have no reason to be friends, you don't have kids, you can still be his friend and not speak to him. If this person is calling upon you to talk and to be there for him and doing all this other stuff, this person is using your friendship because he knows how you feel about him.
Here's my thing. And this is how you know when something is toxic in your life, because I went through this. This sounds so familiar to me. So when I received it, I was like, wow.
Right.
If you in the sun on the beach and you out there and your skin is burning, you need to get out the sun. If you eat shellfish and your face blow up like the elephant man and you need one of those shots to get your body back to normal, those shrimp are toxic. If you're in any situation where it makes you feel some sort of pain, discomfort, anything that doesn't make you feel good, on some level is toxic. You need to remove yourself from toxic situation. You've already said, let me finish, that this man is emotional emotionally unavailable. He has moved on. Those are key things. He's not available to her emotionally. He has moved on, which makes me feel like she's in contact with him, having sexual intercourse, and then he goes on back to his happy old life without regard to her feelings. That does not make you feel good. I know it's easier said than done, but you need to pull up your underwear, fasten your pants, buckle your belt, and walk the fuck away. This is not healthy. Do not give people your energy who do not deserve your energy. He is using you for a time. Move on. Once again, it's easier said than done, but I guarantee you it will hurt a lot less if you let it go than keeping in this relationship and it's continuing to hurt you over and over and over again. He's already proven to you that he's moved on. What more can he say to you or do to you to make you feel any worse? What? Beat you? What? I don't know. Move. Let it go. Surround yourself with positive people. Journal. Go to church. Pray. Join a book club. Seek some therapy. Walk away from this because you're not married. Clearly, walk away. It's toxic.
I'm just gonna say this without being so deep with it. I don't think it was a painful feeling to her. She still has love for him.
Love don't love nobody.
So if she still has love for him and she feels that way, then she needs to separate herself from that because it's not good.
Isn't that what
for
I just said?
Yes, but it is what you said. But you also made the analogy that if it's painful or if your face blow up from eating shellfish.
It's toxic. So, it's a toxic situation.
So
she's not reaping any benefits. It's like you depositing money in the bank, you withdrawing money from the bank and not putting no money back in it.
So it's
empty after a while. It's toxic.
It's toxic, but she gets something from it.
That's not healthy.
I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm trying to help your analogy, which is even if it feels good to you temporarily, because people want to be with people that they care about. All right, so even whatever way she's being with him, she want to be with them because she cares about him.
She says she wants to know how to move on from this situation.
She wants to know how. So I'm telling her it's plain and simple. You need to end the friendship. You can be friends without talking.
No.
Listen to what I'm saying. Being friends does not mean you have to be friendly.
Friendships give the connotation that there's some sort of...
I need you to just hush and listen. Let me talk for a second. I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Being friends does not mean you're enemies. That is my friend, but I don't fool with him. You know what I'm saying? And let me tell you what I mean. I mean that is not my enemy. There's no reason for him to
I didn't say be an enemy.
Well, then either you're a friend or you're enemy.
That's not true.
Yes.
That is not true. Acquaintances are not enemies. It's some people that you deal with on a certain type of level.
That's still a friend. That's a relationship. What I'm saying is, you're not friendly, you're not mean, none of that. You just cut that person off from being around you, and you don't give that person your communication, don't give that person your time. If that person calling you because they want to, whatever it is they're getting from you, you just can't give it anymore. You have to actually, if it takes you to actually cut that person off, you cut that person off. We're saying the same thing.
I don't think so because you're using the word friends. So friends don't intentionally hurt people that they care. Because to me, a friendship is a caring situation. He's not a friend.
Then he's an enemy.
He's not an enemy. But here's the thing. He's not a friend and he's not an enemy. But you need to be able to protect yourself as a woman as a man.
But I'm trying to give you this without being you went extreme like
I did extreme because I don't appreciate.
I
did cuss because I want her to feel the magnitude of what she's putting herself in. You deserve better. You don't let you teach people how to treat you. If he's treating you the way that makes you feel bad, then you haven't taught him anything. You need to let him go and find somebody who's teachable.
Anonymous person.
My husband being rude right now, but I'm gonna check him later. But just know, walk away, girl, walk away.
Anonymous person was saying the same thing, but what I'm telling you,
he's not your friend.
But what I'm telling you to do is, you need to protect yourself.
Now I agree with that. I was gonna say that. Protect yourself.
Anonymous person, you need to
walk away.
You need to think
Cut communication off.
about exactly. You need to
And take care of yourself. And the only way you can call that man a friend again is if you can be in his presence without him pulling your bells and whistles.
Person, we're saying the same thing, but listen to my voice.
Oh, girl, I'm emotional about this.
I'm trying to keep this calm and clean. That you don't have to make it an enemy. You don't have to make it a fight. You just simply,
I didn't say make it a fight. I'm just aggressive.
Protect your feelings, and you let this person alone. And even if you have to let this person know that, hey,
you don't owe him nothing. Don't let him know nothing. Walk away.
I got things I got to do in my life.
He don't deserve that. Walk the fuck away and ghost him. Walk away, girl.
Anonymous person. Always do things with love.
Yes, walk the fuck away with love. Deuces. All right, y'all. We out. Thank you for tuning in to Tea with Monroe, the podcast. Definitely check me out on all social media outlets. I'm on Snapchat also. I haven't figured out how to use it, but I am there. Look me up, Tea with Monroe. Also, be sure to subscribe, download my podcast on iTunes, especially, and rate and review and leave a comment. Hey, a little goes a long way. Help a sister out. Also, I'm on Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. And next week going to be part 2 of what's the name of this podcast? Whatever it is, it's going to be part 2. Okay? And we out. Bye. I appreciate everyone who is listening to the podcast today. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like for us to discuss in future episodes, email me at twithmonroe@gmail.com. You can also contact me on my DM via Facebook,